Something quite unprecedented in the history of COPs happened on November 11th. Indigenous demonstrators and their supporters breached security barriers at the main entrance to the COP30 conference hall in Belém and clashed with security officers there. Security officials soon brought it under control and only minor injuries were reported. But the demonstrators' message came through that the COP will end, but the destruction will continue, that their forests cannot be felled. And this is an important message. Remember, Brazil has already come under fire for conducting the COP at Belém, which is located right inside the Amazon rainforest. Hectares of rainforest have been destroyed for this, environmentalists have alleged. And more deforestation looms ahead, with an upcoming 1,000-kilometer long railway line that will cut through parts of the Amazon. Moreover, Brazil's President Lula has also given permission to the country's oil firm to conduct exploratory oil drilling in the sea off the Amazon coast. This happened just 3 weeks before the COP began at Belém. According to news reports, Raoni Metuktire, a leader of the Kayapo people of Brazil, said that he supports Lula, but that the president must listen to them. He was ready to even give the president a talking to if he ignored concerns over oil exploration near the mouth of the Amazon River, he said. Meanwhile, there have been squabbles over the Tuesday protests at the COP venue. According to reports, UN officials criticized Brazil's security personnel for failing to act on Tuesday night. Brazil, meanwhile, has said that security inside the COP is the responsibility of the UN. And we may witness more protests. A major climate march is scheduled to take place in Belém on Saturday, where Indigenous people and civil society groups will demand climate justice and protection of Indigenous territories. Here are 5 other highlights of what happened at COP30 over the past 4 days. Renewables are overtaking fossil fuels. The World Energy Outlook 2025, released by the International Energy Agency on November 12th, shows that renewable energy sources will grow faster than any other energy source in the next 10 years, by a huge 40%. Coal is at or close to a peak, and oil will follow by around 2030 and gas by 2035. India will be the largest contributor to global energy demand growth till 2035. And yet, emissions are still on a rise, several reports released at the COP show. The global carbon budget released on November 13th at the COP shows that fossil fuel emissions are set to rise by 1.1% in 2025. This is a record high. At the current rate, the world's carbon budget, which is the amount of emissions that can be released before the world hits the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming limit, will be exhausted in the next 4 years. The Climate Action Tracker analyzed the promises and targets set by nations to cut down on greenhouse gas emissions and thus global warming. Its report, released on November 13th, shows that the world is still on track for a staggering 2.6 degrees Celsius increase in temperatures. It is an improvement when compared to what the tracker found in 2015, a 3.6 degrees Celsius increase by 2100. But we are still nowhere close to the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit that the Paris Agreement aims to curb global warming to. And there's a record number of fossil fuel lobbyists roaming the halls of COP30. A report released by the NGO Kick Big Polluters Out showed that there are 1,602 fossil fuel lobbyists at COP30. This means that 1 in 25 participants of the COP are lobbyists. A few other important events happened at COP30 during these days. On November 12, countries signed a declaration to prioritize information integrity in the light of misinformation about climate change. Its commitments include supporting a diverse and resilient media ecosystem to make sure that there is accurate and reliable coverage on climate and environmental issues. 13 countries, including Brazil and Canada, are members so far. Brazil also launched the Belém Health Action Plan on November 13th. This is the first international climate change adaptation plan exclusively focused on health. The aim is to set up several actions, such as better health surveillance systems, to help countries prepare their health systems and respond to the impacts of climate change, especially the most vulnerable communities. It is a voluntary framework for countries, international organizations, and partners across civil society, academia, and other sectors, including philanthropy. Philanthropic organizations have already pledged an investment of USD 300 million to the plan. On November 12th, the People's Summit kicked off at COP30. 30,000 people from 62 countries will participate in the event where communities and leaders will speak and interact. A flotilla of nearly 200 boats in the Guajara and Guama rivers in Belem marked the event. On November 11th, India delivered statements on behalf of the like-minded developing countries group and the BASIC group, which comprises Brazil, South Africa, India, and China. While registering its support of multilateralism, India also said that unilateral climate related trade measures risk becoming instruments of protectionism and run against the spirit of the Climate Change Convention. India here was referring to the European Union's carbon border adjustment mechanism. So, what is this, and why are India and other countries so concerned? This is essentially a kind of carbon tax that the European Union imposes on imported products such as iron, steel, cement, and fertilizers that produce high emissions during their manufacturing. As part of this tax, the importer has to purchase certificates to compensate for the emissions produced in the manufacturing or production of these goods. Now, this tax will be operational from January 2026. And if importers do not comply with it, they will have to forego free allowances that the EU offers for these products. The concern is that these carbon costs will have to be borne by the developing countries where the products are being manufactured and imported from, while developed countries have already contributed more than their share of emissions globally. India is among the top countries where the EU imports such products from, and there are concerns about how this tax will affect the economy. This carbon tax was a point of discussion and disagreement at the last COP as well. Meanwhile, negotiations continue behind closed doors. These negotiations are one of the most important events at COPs. This is where world leaders and government representatives argue about what goes into agreement texts, including specific words and phrases, like phasing out versus phasing down of fossil fuels. Every word matters. So, is there progress at the ongoing negotiations? Well, there are agreements and disagreements between member parties, as is bound to be at these COPs. The carbon tax that I told you about just now? That's something that some parties, including like minded developing countries, have again expressed disagreement about on November 13th, according to the Earth Negotiations Bulletin. The bulletin also showed that India and the Arab group had problems with including a statement about record breaking temperatures in 2025 in one of the texts. They said it was simply misleading and they could not support including this statement. Small island states have described the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit for global heating as a lifeline and demanded that the world honor it. I must remind you that there is increasing scientific evidence that 2025 will be one of the hottest years since record keeping began. A recent report by the World Meteorological Organization found that 2025 could be either the second or third warmest year on record. That's all for today from The Wire. We will be bringing you more updates about COP30 in the week to come from the venue as well. So keep following us.